UCLA, honestly, it's the best place ever. I genuinely don't know what I would have done. If you're not confident and proud of your decision, no one else is gonna be. Everyone has their own circumstance. You know what? My bachelor's degree is gonna say UCLA, and that's what matters.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So I have a very exciting guest here today.
Hi you guys, I'm Hannah, and I'm a transfer student.
Yes, so I'm going to be doing a Q&A about being a transfer student, just like the transfer student experience in general. I've been getting a lot of questions from you guys, whether it's DMs or comments, about like the whole transfer experience. And as you know, I came in my first year, so I thought what better way than recruit someone who's actually gone through the experience. So yes, Hannah is super kind to be here today and she's gonna give us all the insight. I've done other videos like this. I've posted one with like my pre-med friends. I've done one myself where I talk about the business economics major. So if you're interested in any other majors as well, let me know in the comments and I will try to find people who can talk on those. But yeah, let's get on to the questions. Let's start off with like a brief intro. Do you want to talk about like your major, hometown, what college you went to before?
Yeah, so I am a fourth year sociology major and I transferred from Santa Monica Community College. I'm from like the Manhattan Beach area, so that was one of the closer community colleges. And I'm a first generation college student and the oldest in my family, so it's a really exciting and big deal that I get to graduate, especially from a school like UCLA.
Okay, and then also how we know each other. We're in the same sorority, we're in Chi-O. Go Chi-O! I met Hannah last year after we rushed and joined Chi-O, and she's honestly so sweet. I could talk to her all day. Like literally before we were filming this video, we were just going on and on. I was like, okay, we need to film this video, but
the camera shut off like 3 times.
Yeah. First question is, describe your transfer experience. Did you think you'd transfer? Was UCLA your goal? Did you apply to a lot of places?
Yeah, so I had, I guess, kind of a weird transfer experience in that I was not planning on going to community college at first. And I only say weird because most of the people I knew from high school fully knew they were going to go to a community college. That was their plan. They didn't apply to any 4 years. But when I was a senior in high school, I had gotten into several universities and just none of them felt right. I wasn't super passionate about any of the schools I had gotten into, and I don't know, a lot of my friends were talking about how excited they were, how this is what drew them to whatever school, and I just didn't have that shared experience or shared desire. And so literally 2 weeks before classes started, I signed up for community college.
Guys, like literally 2 weeks. Like,
yeah, no,
this girl finessing.
Yeah. I had no idea what to do because again, I was fully planning on going to a 4-year, and my parents were planning on that as well. There was no thought of me going that direction, which, all that being said, the best decision I ever made was to go to community college. I will say that time and time again. All that being said, I started at my community college in the 4 random classes that my counselor recommended to me. And one of the professors, we had a one-on-one conversation where she just kind of talked about how bright of a person she thought I was. And she said she thought I could get into UCLA. And it was kind of her faith in me that drew me to apply to UCLA. Again, I'm a first generation college student, so my parents didn't fully understand the scope of what advice to give me, honestly. And not because they didn't care, but they just didn't know. And so it was really nice to have someone sit me down and kind of talk with me. And it was just nice to hear her words of confidence in me. Yeah, she's just the best. I miss her. She moved to Colorado, but I miss her. So as for the schools I applied to during the transfer process, I applied to 4 schools. I applied to UCLA as my number 1, and then I applied to UC San Diego, UC Santa Barbara, and LMU. When I was at community college, when I realized I wanted to go to UCLA, everything I did was then to get to UCLA. I didn't learn this till later in my transfer experience at my community college, but there is a program called TAP. And basically, if you go through TAP, usually it's connected to your scholars program at your community college. I don't know if this is all colleges. I know this is for California specifically. I'm not sure about out-of-state schools. But with the TAP certification, if you get TAP certified, you get to pick an alternative major for UCLA. Wow. I was in the scholars program, went through the certification process. So then I put my primary major as sociology, which is what I got in for. But if I didn't get in for sociology, I would be then considered for gender studies. So fun fact, if you complete that program, you do get an alternate, which gives you just that extra chance and boost for getting in.
That's nice. So I imagine since UCLA was your top school, you were super excited when you got that letter.
Oh, I cried. I have the video. I just filmed it and I was terrified because I was like, what if I don't get in? This is gonna gonna be so embarrassing. But I got in and I like started hyperventilating. I was so excited.
God.
And then my favorite videos I could never post, which was so upsetting, but my sister was the first person I told, and she got so excited, but I couldn't post it because my room was filthy in the video.
Oh.
And then my mom and dad's reaction, I went to Target. I live in LA, and so all of the Targets have UCLA shirts. So I went to Target and bought UCLA shirts, and I said, Mom, I got a shirt from school today. Like, they gave me a shirt.
So cute.
And so she walks in and she swears in it. She's like, what the F? She said a bad word, and I was like, oh my gosh, now I can't post that one. And then my grandma, who is like my best friend in the whole world, she's 83, she's an immigrant, like she's just like the cutest little bundle of bundle of joy and information. And so me getting into college was especially big for her. And so I filmed her reaction with the same t-shirt bit, but her dentures had broken. And so she didn't have front teeth. And it's so upsetting because it's the sweetest video because she has a very strong accent. So she's like, so this means you got in, right? That like she was trying to give reassurance on like that's what it was, but I couldn't post it because she didn't have front teeth. And it's so I'll show you later. It's literally the funniest video.
That would go viral. That is so funny. Next question is, why UCLA? What made you choose UCLA? And I know you kind of already touched on this, but
yeah, so part of it was the faith put in me from my professor, and something I mentioned in your old video you made Zoom calling all of us.
Actually, if you want to check out, I have made a video in the past where Hannah was in it, where I asked my friends like frequently asked questions about UCLA in general. So she's referencing that video. I'll link it down below.
Something that really kind of pushed me to pick UCLA when I realized it was an attainable goal. My dad always wanted to go to UCLA and he couldn't because of just like some family issues that happened, and so I kind of wanted to go because he wanted to, and kind of fulfilling, I guess, his dream of going. I don't know, he always talks about this one story of when he was younger, UCLA had the first computer, and so he would come to play video games on the computer with his friend.
And so this story.
Yeah, and so it was just kind of this thing of like, my dad had always wanted to go. Also, just when it came to everything I was looking for, UCLA kind of had it. I wanted a team with big athletics, and UCLA has that for sure. Yeah. I wanted somewhere with Greek life, somewhere where the transfer community was big and accepted. And UCLA just kind of had all that. And I also wanted to be close to home, and UCLA is like 20 minutes from my house.
Perfect.
So it all kind of worked out. Yep, exactly.
Okay, next question is, was there anything that you were worried about coming in?
I think the biggest concern was probably just the stigma surrounding community college students and how I was going to fit in. I was kind of concerned of if the transfer community was as big as they said it was. 1 in 3 UCLA students is a transfer student, and so that's something UCLA is very proud of, which I appreciate. It's nice when the institution you choose decides to support you explicitly.
Is there any extracurriculars? Like, what are you involved in? How would you recommend getting involved? Obviously, we're both in CAIO.
Yeah, so CAIO was my first real big involvement. I'm lucky in that my mom gave me a very outgoing personality growing up. So I wasn't necessarily concerned about my ability to make friends, just more so where I was going to find those friends. So that's where Greek life definitely came in handy.
Actually, what was it like rushing as a transfer student? I know that there are a few transfer students in our sorority, but obviously, like, I feel like the majority of people who rush are first years, like when I was. So what was it like? Were you nervous about it at all?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I wasn't nervous because I was a transfer student. I think I was just more so nervous because of the rush process, and everyone gets nervous by it. But being a transfer in rush, it was unique in that everyone I spoke to the first day was pretty much all transfer students. So that was interesting, not in a negative way. It was just interesting to see that commonality shared. But I really liked it because it showed me how many transfer students are involved in Greek life. Honestly, I kind of feel like being a transfer student almost helped me a little bit during recruitment because I had so many experiences to talk about. The 2 girls who pref'd me, which is now my big and my G big, they're not transfer students. So it was just interesting to get to talk to them about what it's like to be a transfer student. And I think that a piece of advice I would give to anyone who wants to rush as a transfer is don't be afraid to let them know you're a transfer student. I think sometimes people feel like they have to keep that information from other people, but I think that it adds to who you are and it adds to your experience. And so it's a good talking point. Something interesting about the transfer experience that I think is unique in regards to the social life is that when you come in as a transfer, specifically from a community college, you don't have that frat party experience, that, going out on a Thursday thing. So it's like you come in with the mindset, and I don't want to say maturity, but you come in with that like embodiment of a third year student, but you still want all the same experiences as a freshman. And so, I mean, I've noticed it with some of my friends who are transfers from other universities where I wanted to go to frat parties and they were like, why would we go to a frat party? Let's go to a bar.
Yeah,
because they got it.
Had that experience.
Yeah, it was just interesting to find my footing in this situation where I have the interests, I guess, of a freshman of wanting to go to the football game, all of the football games, I should say, or all of the basketball games, go to this, that, and the other. Whereas some of my friends who were also upperclassmen in the same grade as me, but had already had these experiences, didn't have that same eagerness. And not that it's a negative thing in any capacity, it just was a unique circumstance that I was like, oh, this is like now something I'm navigating.
Yeah, it's like you didn't really expect that like coming in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Is there any other like clubs or organizations that you're involved in at UCLA?
Yeah, the biggest thing is I'm a transfer mentor in the Transfer Student Center here at UCLA. So I went through the process as a mentee last year. I had a mentor, she was 40, and she was a non-traditional student. She was coming to get her bachelor's in sociology and then wants to be a teacher. So she got like a minor in education. But that was a really nice way to just meet other transfer students. Since then, I have become a mentor. So now I have 4 mentees who I talk to all the time.
She's got a loaded plate.
Yeah, I don't like being bored.
Oh my gosh, Hannah is the most involved person I know. Like the freaking intern queen. We'll get into that a little bit later, but
UCLA has a transfer resource center that is amazing. And so this transfer mentor program has been really nice, especially with COVID. I talk to one of my mentees in particular all the time. If he's having a stressful day, he'll get on Zoom with me. But as for getting involved on campus, I would just say anything you're passionate about. UCLA in particular probably has a club for it.
Oh my gosh. There's so many clubs at UCLA.
UCLA, honestly, I don't mean to brag, but it's the best place ever.
It really is. People are proud to be here.
Yeah.
And that really shines through.
You see the shared passion with other students. It's just like the biggest thrill.
Yeah.
I love it here. Go Bruins.
Okay, so you kind of already touched on this, but it sounds like there's a really great transfer community, lots of transfer resources here. Was there anything else you want to add on to that? I know there is a dorming option where it's like you can be dormed with other transfer students, right?
Yeah, so I can't touch on it personally because I lived in this apartment complex.
Yeah, she was the one who recommended me this apartment, so
yeah.
Talk to her.
But I lived here my first year, but I do know people who specifically did the transfer housing. If that's something you're interested in, I think dorm housing for transfer students is a really great way to meet people who have similar interests and that common story. As for additional transfer resources, honestly, the Transfer Resource Center is like the place to go, where you can find like individual transfer counseling. You can find like career counseling info. There's peer counseling. There's all kinds of counseling as well as events. UCLA is just great about having resources readily available. Because a lot of time, at least I was worried about this, there's concern about going to your university and then it's like, oh, you get there and your transfer identity no longer exists. You're this, like, have fun.
It's just like they place you and just like, okay, have fun.
Yeah, it's like, hey, you did it, sweetie. Now go do great. And so it's nice being somewhere where they're like, hey, this is still part of your identity and still plays a big role in your educational experience. And so they have good resources to kind of accommodate for that. Yeah. Like I said, 1 in 3 UCLA students is a transfer, and I knew that going in, but I wasn't sure how the school support would be on that, as well as like, I wasn't sure how big the actual transfer community is, because you hear 1 in 3, but you're like, like, is that true?
Also, I feel like sometimes when you're applying to colleges, it's like, okay, they say that on the brochure, but is it really true?
Yeah.
But you would say that like,
oh, 100%. Yeah. I've been in upper div classes where like we'll have group projects of 7 or 8 people and all of us will be transfer students. Oh, wow. And it's not like I'm in a transfer class. I'm in, Soc 101, but it just happens to work out that there are really that many transfer students here.
What was something that was challenging for you once you got here?
I would say the quarter system was the most challenging part. That was my answer, I think, in the last video too. The transfer system is a weird one to get adjusted to, especially with community college. A lot of times you're on the semester system, so you're really used to that 16-week to 18-week luxury. Whereas now at UCLA, it's like week 3, you are in midterms.
16 to 18 week, that's like Taking your sweet time.
Oh yeah, I would buy my book maybe week 3. Like that was how the timing was. There was always syllabus week. There was a lot of luxury.
Yeah, no, you don't get that here.
Highly recommend, if they do offer it at your community college, to take like a winter or a summer session. They're usually like 6-week courses, so they're a lot quicker, and it's really intense for 6 weeks, but honestly, I took a ton of them and I think that it was a really great prep for the quarter system.
How did you feel academically coming in? Like, were you nervous about like maybe the classes here would be harder or the teaching styles would be different? Or did you feel prepared coming in? How was that transition academically?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely felt prepared coming in. My mindset was like, I got here, I must know something. And luckily I had taken, at my community college, it was like the scholars program, which is essentially like honors classes. So I had taken
She's
that.
Smart.
I'm not trying to brag or anything. But so I did take those classes, and so I feel like I kind of was adjusted to maybe more of the rigorous aspects of it. I will say something different I noticed was when you're at community college, professors kind of know that this isn't your final step. They know that you're likely trying to transfer somewhere, and so they're really trying their best to not give you a B or a C. They're trying to like make sure, not necessarily that it's easy, but that you're not facing like significant backlash from this grade. You know what I mean? Whereas, not to say UCLA isn't like that, but UCLA professors are maybe a little more fixated on the material.
They just grade it as it is.
They grade it as it is, and they grade it a little more heavily, I want to say, like more strict.
Yeah, I mean, I will say some of the professors here grade quite aggressively.
Yeah.
It really depends on what class, obviously.
It depends on the class, but other than that, in relation to the rigor of the courses, it was pretty standard, especially for my major. I'm a sociology major, so it's a lot of essays. It's not as much as like taking a biology test and knowing how to calculate I don't know, I was talking to this one kid, he's pre-med, and he was doing something with sea urchins, and he was like trying to talk to me about it, and I was so confused. I'm like, I was just learning about Halloween costumes, like being completely transparent. So major to major situation.
What is something that you would tell your past self?
I would definitely tell myself to not be ashamed of my identity as a transfer student. I think there is a stigma surrounding transfer students, and it's hard to be a transfer student. I mean, you graduate high school and now you have to spend another 2 years trying to get to the next institution. There's a lot of preparation for how to be a 4-year student and how to be a traditional student, but there's not a lot of prep for how to be a transfer student. So now you're kind of taking these steps to learn how to do it on your own. Yeah. It's difficult to be a transfer student because there's a lot of things to consider. A lot of people have to work part-time or full-time. A lot of people have family members they're taking care of, which is why they're a transfer. Or there's just other extenuating circumstances that make you a transfer. Or sometimes there's not. Sometimes you just want to be a community college student. But I think no matter what your circumstances are, being a transfer is not something to be ashamed of. If anything, it's something to be proud of. It means that you knew what steps you needed to take to get to where you needed to go, and that you were willing to take the time to really grow as a student. Everyone has their own circumstance and everyone has paths that are right for them and wrong for them. And for me, I genuinely don't know what I would have done if I was a 4-year and just went straight in. I grew so much educationally, but also individually at my community college. And again, it's just not something, in my opinion, to be ashamed of. Just because it's not the traditional way doesn't mean it's the bad way. You know what? My bachelor's degree is going to say UCLA, and that's what matters.
She knows what's up.
If you're not confident and proud of your decision, no one else is gonna be.
Are there any kind of like final last words, any advice or tips for transfer students coming in?
Yeah, so a big thing I would just be aware of is how important internships are. I had no idea when I transferred in. I didn't start my first internship until April, whereas other people either had internships at their community college or started them right away. And not saying that you need to forego any social life and have an internship, but just kind of keep internships on your radar because they are really valuable when it comes to navigating the job space. That's something you want to do before you get to your senior year. Starting internships early just really kind of gives you a leg up of trying to figure out where you want to end up.
But yeah, that is all the questions I have for Hannah. Thank you so much for sharing your insight, blessing the people with the info they want to know.
Of course, and if anyone has any more questions, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram, DM me. I love talking about being a transfer student, so
yes, I will leave her Instagram user down below. Hope you enjoy this video. Again, if you have any other specific sort of majors you want me to interview students about, leave those in the comments below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe down below for more. Until next time, we'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!
Bye guys!